Okay, welcome everybody to the Co-Movement Gym podcast. Today we're talking to a good friend, David Gleeson. David was a competitive gymnast. That's what I always knew you as for 13 years, eventually reaching a level 10, which is the highest level you can reach in competitive gymnastics. He's a two-time all-around state champion and a two-time regional champion on the pommel horse, which he achieved in back-to-back years. After going to the military, earning an associate's degree and then a bachelor's degree, graduating from Citadel, David retired from gymnastics and he became obsessed with a new sport, which is running. He started like most runners with shorter races, including numerous 5Ks, and eventually worked his way up to longer distances, including a couple of half marathons. But this year, David decided to go big and he signed up for his first ultramarathon, a 50-kilometer trail race in the Finger Lakes region in upstate New York. And that race took place just a few weeks ago. So today we're going to hear all about how that first ultramarathon experience went. And David, thanks for being on the podcast, bud.
Thank you for having me, guys. Really exciting to be here again.
Oh, it's awesome to talk to you. And, listeners should know that you're a really good friend of our gym. You and your mother and father, Susan and David Sr., you guys have been a huge part of our gym for many, many years and really good friends, helped us become who we are. So we always love reconnecting and talking to you guys. I am super excited for this talk today because running has been my sport for a long time, and I recently got into ultramarathoning too just a few years ago. Obsessed with it, just like it seems you might be becoming.
Absolutely.
And I absolutely love hearing reports, race recaps from people, because ultramarathons are just an unbelievable experience, and there's always quite the story that goes along with them, all the highs and lows and all the great stuff that happens out there. And I'll tell you, 99% of people will never experience an ultramarathon, but our audience loves hearing about this stuff. It's to a lot of people, when you say that you ran 31 miles or 32 miles, whatever it was, in a single day, it's like mind blowing to them, and they just want to hear all about how it went and how that works.
The Co-Movement Gym podcast is supported by Native Path Supplements and Lombardi Chiropractic. Mention this podcast or click on the links in the episode description for a nice discount on us. So first off, not to spoil anything, but congratulations, because you did successfully complete your first ultramarathon. And that was just July 5th, was it?
Yeah, July 5th is when it was.
Okay, yep. So just earlier this month. Yeah, and I saw some videos of you crossing the line. Not only did you complete it successfully, but you looked strong at the end. You were looking pretty fresh still.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that way.
I don't know if I felt that way, but definitely that sense of gratification. It was just a great feeling. I mean, it was probably the biggest achievement that I've had up to this point in my life. It was just great knowing that I completed it and getting to the chair and sitting down and just taking a load off. That was awesome. It was great.
Absolutely. And to hear you say that was one of your biggest achievements, maybe the biggest in your life, is saying a lot, because you have done a lot in your life, as we heard in the intro, but you're just getting started. So we'll get into the race itself in a moment, which is the fun part. But first, I've known you through the gym as a competitive gymnast, super athletic, really dedicated to health and fitness, but never as a runner. So where did this start? How did you start with running after gymnastics, and what led you to this ultramarathon?
Actually, when I was still a gymnast, I started doing 5Ks, and that's kind of where it started, really. As a gymnast, we had such a strong foundation endurance-wise, because when we were tumbling and things like that, that tires you out. And we had to learn how to kind of be in shape for that. Doing the 5Ks, I already had a strong foundation, so it was just a matter of kind of getting better at running. And I never thought it would go where it's gone. So it initially started in gymnastics, and it has just kind of become a part of my life. And I really focused on it more as I retired from gymnastics, because being a competitive gymnast, or just in any sport in general, everybody becomes super competitive. And when you lose that, it's hard to kind of find something that gives you that adrenaline rush, the competitiveness that you used to have. So with running, I was able to find that. So ultimately went into some 5Ks, got a bunch of those under my belt. I probably have done more 5Ks than the longer distance, although the longer distance now is probably starting to outweigh the 5Ks. When I came to the Citadel last year, we have like a running club. It's not like the cross country team. We have to fundraise it ourselves, and it's student run. So I ended up joining that club, and there was a half marathon on our list of races we had, and I ended up signing up for the half marathon. It was right by our school, actually, and I ended up doing that. Felt great, and actually ended up really enjoying that because for me, when I run a 5K, it feels more like a sprint than it does, as enjoyment. So when I did the half marathon, I really enjoyed the longer distance at a slower pace.
Mm-hmm.
And after doing that, I came back this year, did 2 more half marathons. I did one in South Carolina, and I also did one in California this year. That race was actually supposed to be a marathon.
Really?
It was on a mountain, and the morning of the race, we got an email that snow had come in and we weren't able to get to the top of the mountain. So they ended up canceling the marathon, and I ended up just doing the half marathon for that race.
Interesting.
And then when I came home this summer, I kind of just sent it really. And I was talking to Bob and was like, I think I'm going to do my first 50K this year. I'm ready to do it. I knew it was a huge jump, but I've always kind of been that way.
I
It
know.
was, it was just about like finishing. It wasn't really, I didn't have like a set time that I wanted. I just wanted to do it, to finish it. And that's ultimately what ended up happening.
That's awesome, dude. I mean, that's the same story from my first ultra. I went in with no time goals or anything. It was just like, I want to cross the finish line with a smile on my face just to like prove that I can cover this distance, which I didn't know if I could do.
Mhm.
So it was kind of scary going in, but yeah, what an amazing feeling to cross the finish line and actually have, accomplished that. You answered one of my questions too, because I thought it was interesting that you jumped right from to an ultra, but you did plan a marathon in between as like a step up distance. It just got canceled and turned into another half.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you jumped up big in this one. So let's talk about the race that you did. It's called the Finger Lakes 50s, right? And you want to describe it? I guess it's 2 loops.
Yeah, so there were 3 distances. So it was a 25K, a 50K, and a 50 miler. So the 25K was, like you said, it's a loop race. So one loop of the race was 16 and a half miles, which was the 25K. And the 50K was 2 loops. It ended up being about 33 miles.
Yep.
And then the 50-mile race was 3 loops, but they also had to do a baby loop.
Gotcha. To get the extra miles in at the end. Yeah. Yeah. So you went further than 50 kilometers, with the extra 2 miles tacked on. Nice
Yeah.
job. And what I've got here, I looked up the race myself. Selfishly, I'm really excited to hear about this course because this race is on my list too. I was waitlisted for an ultramarathon last year and was looking for a different race to run instead.
Mhm.
And I almost signed up for this one. And then I was lucky enough to get off the wait list for the other one. But this race you did is on my list to do maybe next year or something. So I can't wait to
Awesome.
hear about it. When I looked it up, I saw it's exactly as you described and about 85% single track running, which is just beautiful, narrow trails through the woods, which I
Yes.
love that kind of running. And about 5% through grassy pastures. I guess you might see some cows out there.
Mhm.
And then only 10% on paved or gravel roads, which is great. I prefer as much trail as possible. So it sounds like a great course. But I'll let the audience know that there's also that 16.5 mile loop has about 1,300 feet of elevation. So it's you've got some hills you're contending with, and you did the loop twice, so you had about 600 feet of climbing to do on this race. Sounds like an amazing race. Before we hear about your performance on it, what did you think about the course itself? Like, did you like it out there, or in the organization, the aid stations? Like,
I would say the race was amazing. I mean, I was absolutely flabbergasted with the amount of they had 5 aid stations on the loop itself. So, I mean, the distance between them fluctuated, but what they had at the aid stations blew me away. I mean, you could tell they really took the time to care for the runners and meet the needs that we needed. I
mhm.
mean, we're talking like pretzels, candy, peanut butter and jelly, watermelon. I mean, it was extensive the amount of things that they had for us, pretty much anything you wanted. As far as the loop itself goes, I mean, very scenic. It was beautiful, pretty easy to navigate, although you did have to really pay attention to the markers because
Mhm.
it could be easy to get off track, but as long as you were, you know, focusing on that, it wasn't really an issue. And
That's
then
one of
though,
the
as far
challenges
as
in
the
an ultra too, is the more tired you get, the harder it is to focus on
yes.
paying attention for trail markers and flags.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. But as far as the cow pastures go, that was definitely probably the one of the harder parts of the race because, like it says in the race, there are actual cows in the pasture. Actually, part of I can't remember what loop it was, but I ended up seeing like a group of them passing by. When we were going through the cow pastures, I mean, the footprints that they're leaving, it kind of was a little hard to navigate those because if you're running through there, you can't really see the footprints that they're leaving. And a lot of it was hard on your ankles. So, if you made one wrong step, you could have twisted an ankle or potentially broken an ankle. So you just really
Sure.
had to be careful on those parts. But other than that, pretty smooth course.
Yeah, that's interesting. Most people wouldn't think about that as being a challenge. We have our race that we organize in Brookfield, New York, and that's the same thing. We're on horse trails, and those horses leave big hoof prints. That's dangerous. Stepping in a little pothole is a really easy ankle twist, like you said. So yeah,
Mhm.
some careful stepping through the cow pastures, probably for more than one reason.
Yes, absolutely.
um, so let's see. All right, the fun part, man. We got to hear about your race. I need you to take us through this. Let's start to finish here. And let's start at the very beginning because I think you have what, a 6:30 a.m. start, or was it 6 a.m.?
Yeah, that's correct. 6:30.
Okay, so you're getting up pretty early in the morning, and yeah, what's that morning look like leading up to the start?
Yeah, so for that race, I mean, it's the earliest I've ever kind of gotten up for a race. I ended up waking up at 4 a.m., got everything ready, kind of got my vest together. I was also wearing a belt, got that together. And then breakfast, I had, I think, 2 bagels with cream cheese and a nectarine.
Mhm.
Showered, got dressed. We got over there probably around, I want to say 5:15 a.m. And because we had to unload the car and kind of set up our little like area where we were going to be for when I came in from that first loop.
Yeah, because that would be you're setting up a little mini aid station for yourself, right? With your duffel bag full of nutrition and hydration and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of opened that up. Again, I already had the plan in my head of how I kind of wanted to tackle it. So opened up my bag. I had a fresh pair of shoes ready, fresh pair of socks, a new shirt that I was going to put on, all my gels. I had some real food there, and then we brought our own water too. I like to use Gatorade for
Hmm.
my electrolytes, so I had measured out like bags, how much I had in one of my bottles. So when I came in, it was just easy to pour those in. That way we weren't really guessing too much.
That's smart.
And then just kind of was getting myself mentally ready, stretching out, warming up a little bit, and just kind of sticking to the game plan that I had. The plan going in when I was starting the race, that first loop was,
Mhm.
for me, it's really easy to start off really fast. And
Yep.
that was something I was like, I really have to hold back on. Through training, I was banking on I want to say 11:30 to 12-minute pace per mile. That's
Mhm.
what I was working towards. And
Yep.
I was like, even if I don't hit that and it's a little bit slower, that's okay. As long as I can just keep moving, get through this first loop, that's all I'm concerned about. So
Yep.
I did go out a little hot, but not as hot as I would usually go out. I think I was maintaining like an 11-minute pace maybe for a good chunk of it.
Nice.
But I did definitely dial it back.
Yep. Yep.
So that was kind of like the game plan going in. As far as the loop goes, I felt really strong for
On the
most of
first
the
loop?
loop. Yeah.
Okay.
I was taking in for the first time. I didn't do this in any of my training, but I did experiment obviously with nutrition. So as far as electrolytes and gels, I was experimenting a lot with that, but I was able to find what was kind of going to work for this race. So I was using the Morton gels, the
Mm.
BPN Go gels, and also there's a maple syrup one I was using
Okay.
just for like the sugar. But the main ones I was using was probably the Morton and the BPN gels on the loops itself, and then I had my Gatorade with me. But the thing that I did not experiment with going into this race was salt tablets.
Okay.
And one thing I was really struggling with when I was training was I would go and do my long runs, and that's when I would experiment a lot with my electrolytes and the gels I was using. And I was really struggling with my gut. Like, I would take in my Gatorade within the first hour, and I was trying to get the gels down too, but I had that like sloshing feeling in my stomach.
Yeah.
And then I started having like trouble getting any more gels down, like in hour 2, 3 when I
Yep.
was training. And I didn't even want to drink my Gatorade either, or even water. It was just a really big challenge I was struggling with. So that was my biggest concern, probably going into that first loop. Because after the first hour, that's when I started experiencing those kind of like challenges during my training. So
Mm.
I was like, I don't know. I hope I'm okay. And, I feel good. I was able to eat breakfast this morning, which was good. So my nerves weren't really working on me too much.
Yep.
And I took a salt tablet right as the race started. And then I would say half an hour to 45 minutes, I was taking a salt tablet.
Okay.
And that helped me with my stamina. And it also helped me. I didn't have any sloshing at all.
Awesome. Okay.
So that was huge. Like, I was able to take in the electrolytes I needed per hour. I was able to get a lot of gels down. So my feeling was probably the best it's been
Right
out
on
of,
point.
yeah, out of training. It was great. So I was getting everything I needed. So I would say the first 10 were really good, really strong, feeling good on the course. Of course, like any ultra, there's always like challenges within the course. And one thing that the director was telling us before he let us go was it's really muddy on the courses. There are some trees down. So
Mm.
we had to, there was one part in the race where there was a tree down. I actually had to like go under it as opposed to like around or over. So that was kind of interesting. But the whole muddy piece actually is a little bit more interesting
Yep.
because it was so muddy, Andy, that when we were running, we would get to these parts where your foot would go right through the mud actually. It was more of like kind of like a glue. It would stop you in your tracks.
Yep.
And that was another thing as time went on. I didn't really run through those as much. I started kind of speed walking through them just because it was so sticky. And again, I was just nervous about twisting an ankle or, you know,
Yeah, and then your
something
shoes get
kind of,
all wet and heavy from all the mud stuck to them. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And surprisingly, I was nervous about that. I thought, because it was a little wet, so I was nervous that it was gonna it happened, like, right in the beginning of the race. We were coming down this gravel road, turned into the first trail, and you were hit right with this huge mud patch, and it was watery and everything like that, and my shoes and my feet got wet, and I was like, "Oh, man, that's it. I'm gonna be blistered. This is gonna be such a, like, long road, and we're not even a mile in yet." And to
Yep.
my surprise, actually, my feet dried really quick.
Well, let me tell you, like, that was one of the biggest surprises for me too, because I've been a road runner and like track athlete and stuff for, 20 something years, whatever.
Mhm.
And I hate when my feet are wet, because I'm used to running on dry pavement and I like my socks and shoes to be dry. And going into my first ultra, I heard that there were a couple stream crossings that I had to do. And it was like, I was like, oh my God, is there going to be a way for me to get around this stream? Like, I can't get my feet wet. And when I got there, I mean, there's no choice. It's like this 20-foot wide river that you just have to wade across. And I was like, oh no, this is 10 miles into my race. And I'm like, this is going to be the end for me. Like, I can't run in wet shoes and wet socks. But you're right. It's kind of surprising. Like, I think that's just part of ultra running is you're going to be going through mud and water and stuff. But these shoes and socks that they have these days, they drain so well and they dry so quickly. I was blown away that after like going through the river, 2 miles down the road, my feet felt totally fine again and my shoes were dry again. Like, so now I don't worry about that anymore. But that was like, I had the exact same thought as you in my first one when my feet got wet. I'm like, oh, I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super nerve-wracking because, again, I agree with you completely. I've done more road races than I have in the trail, and I haven't really come across that before. So
Yeah.
that was a little bit of an eye-opener. And then the other thing that I kind of talked about briefly in the beginning of the podcast was those cow pastures.
Mm-hmm.
That was a little bit unique because part of the instructions on the course itself when we were getting ready to do the race was when you go through the cow pastures, there's a gate. So you have to open up the gate. You would have to close the gate behind you, and then you would take
Yep.
off again. On that first loop, again, a lot of it is kind of experimenting and kind of seeing what the course is like. So when I came out for that second loop, at least I knew what I had ahead of me and I knew what was coming, what wasn't. So going through those cow pastures on the first loop, it was more of like a little jog. But then I figured out really quick, okay, I don't think it's a good idea to be running through here because like left and right, your ankle is going every other way because like I said, it kind of felt like a minefield going
Mm-hmm.
through there because of you just couldn't tell where the hoof prints were coming from. And there was it just turned into a lot of, time wasted if you
And it
just,
slows down your running so much that at that point you might as
yeah,
well be speed walking anyway. It's basically the same
yeah,
speed and just safer.
yeah.
So would you say some people like loop courses and some people dislike them? There's some people that when they do the first loop, it kind of demoralizes them because they're like, oh God, now I know what's coming and I got to do all that again. I
Hmm.
personally really like loop courses. It gives me confidence because when I finish the first loop, I'm like, okay, now I know what's out there and I know what to
Yeah.
expect. It sounds like you kind of fall more on that side of things.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I disliked it. But also it was my first ultra. So, I didn't have a lot to base it
Mhm.
on. So, I don't really know per se if I have a preference, but I really did enjoy this course for sure.
That's, I should clarify. I prefer courses that are like it's all just a point to point where it's all new scenery the whole way. But
Yeah.
I find that I do well with loops just because I know what to expect that's coming.
Right.
So it doesn't really like get me down the way that it does some people. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
kind of nice to have a mental idea of what you're going to experience on the second half.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
Absolutely.
you know how to take advantage of that. You're doing a little recon on your first loop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it sounds like so got to mile 10, you were still feeling really strong, really good. That final 10K of the first loop, when you got to the halfway point, how were you there?
So those mental challenges started really playing with me.
Yeah.
One thing that I was battling heavy was my ankles were in so much pain, and it was really just like, okay, I just got to get to the next mile, and then the next mile, and then the next mile. So I
And you
took
were
it
already
mile by
experiencing this on
mile.
loop one.
Yeah, this was loop one.
Wow. Okay.
Mhm. And I think it's just the terrain. I mean, there's rocky parts, there's the mud you're going through, there's a cow pasture. So there was a lot, it was very technical. The most technical race I've ever done. I mean, I have done Sand to Serengeti, which is a trail run, but it's not as, I wouldn't say it's as technical as this race. This by far was the hardest race out of all the ones I've done.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen videos of the Sand to Serengeti. That's in Green Lakes, and it looks like it's pretty flat trails that are really runnable for the most part. Nice hard
Yeah.
packed dirt. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I was battling the ankles big time. Fueling wasn't letting up, so that was good. And it was just really just kind of keep moving until I get back to where I need to be to regroup and get myself ready to go for this next loop.
So when you come into the halfway point, do you have family there waiting? I know your dad's out on the course because he's running his own race at the same time, the
Yeah.
25K.
Yeah.
Did you have your mom there or some support crew at the halfway point?
Yeah, so I had mom, and then also Bob ended up coming out to be there and watch a little bit. I
That's
asked
about the
him to
best
come.
support you can ask for.
Yeah, it was so like I was just very grateful that he was able to make it. I wasn't sure if he was gonna be able to, but I got the text in the morning as I was getting ready to head over to the starting line, and he said he was gonna be there in less than an hour. So that was super
Awesome.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, so you get to that halfway point. How are you feeling there, and what's going through your mind about going into this second loop? You got to do it all over again.
Yeah.
Did you
So
did you change any gear when you got to the halfway point, or did you stick
oh
with like the
yeah.
same shoes the whole way? Okay, well,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
tell us
There
about
there
that.
was there was a lot of changing. So when I came across the line and got over to where we were set up, I sat down and I had everything laid out like I said in the beginning, and I sat down and literally the first thing I said is, I don't know if I want to get up and keep going.
Yep.
The mental games were really working on me. I'm like, I could easily just like end it here and just be done. Because the shape my ankles were in and what I was feeling, I was like, I just don't know if I'm gonna be able to keep going. Like this is really like wearing on me. So I sat down and started. I had a different pair of shoes. I ran in the normal Tormir twos for the
Yep.
first loop, and then for the second loop, I had a pair of Hoka Speed Goat fives.
I have those. Yep.
Yeah, they're a little bit more comfortable. So, and I've always ran in Hokas. I like how they feel. They adapt well to my feet. So
Hmm.
for the second loop, when I came in and sat down, I put on a fresh pair of socks, got in my Hokas, put on a new shirt, put some more sunscreen on. I had about a half of a Pop Tart. I was hydrating, getting my electrolytes ready, more water in my other bottle because I had one with the Gatorade and then one with water. Replenished my gels, and I sat there probably for like a good 10 or 15 minutes. Like, it was really like, I really don't know. I don't know if I can do this. Like, there was just a lot of like mental games, like I said, that were going on. And I looked right at Bob and I said, but it's stupid to quit now. I'm almost
Yeah.
there.
Hmm.
And I was just like, that's just not like even in my vocabulary of like anything that I've done. And I've done harder things. In the moment, they seemed really hard, but looking back on it, it definitely wasn't as hard as this challenge I had in front of me. And um, I got up and hit the course again, got my salt tablets going again. I was listening to music on the first loop, but the second loop, I turned on David Goggins and Joe Rogan.
Nice.
And David Goggins, like, if anybody knows me personally, they know that David Goggins, like, has started to become a big, like, inspiration
Now he's
for a
like your
lot of.
spirit animal,
Oh, yeah, easily. I mean,
and
he
it's
is
accurate to call
just,
him an animal.
yeah, the things that David Goggins talks about, and I just truly believe it too with the things that I do. But in order to grow and actually become like the best version of yourself or unlocking the best potential is you have to suffer. And he talks about this a lot is if the bigger the suffering you go through, the more your mind is hardened, the more you're going to, unlock the things that, you never thought you could do. The other piece to that is it just prepares you for life. Life is such a hard thing to go through. I mean, life is never easy. So I really listened to him a lot, and he really helped me get through that second loop a lot because there were times where I was like, I just want to be done. I want to quit. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And I would say probably the first half of that second loop was a good second win. Like, I felt faster, I felt good,
Okay.
felt stronger. And then I would say the second half was just like an absolute like just battle of just trying to like get to the finish line, really. Um, the ankle pain started coming back again. I started walking a lot more and running turned into like this little jog.
Yep.
But all I like had in my mind was just, I just have to finish. I just have to get here. And then I started like picking up on the things that were coming like, okay, we have the next cow pasture coming up. We have this part of the race coming up. So I started like having these like waypoints and knew I was getting close to the end because towards the end of like when you're coming into the last aid station, you come into this part where it's a very vast, like tall grass and there's trees and it's a really long stretch. I would say probably like 1.5 to 2 miles. It's a really long and grueling stretch. And you're really just kind of like, it doesn't feel like much, but it's like a little incline and you just keep kind of working your way up and you can see the tent in the distance, and I was like, "Okay, I just gotta get up
Just
here,"
got to get
and
there.
the game plan was because I was talking to Bob when I came in, and he was asking me some questions, and he's like, "Well, how's the feeling going? How, you know, like, how's all that going?" So I told him that I was able to get a bottle of electrolytes down every hour. I was taking a gel every half an hour. And, so I was definitely on track. And he said, okay, that's good. And he said, as far as the ankle concern you're having, are you eating anything like real food at the aid stations? And I was like, no, I haven't been doing that. He's like, okay, when you go out on this loop, I don't care what you eat, but at each aid station, whatever looks appetizing, just take it and just get that down and start because he said you need like at least 100 calories per aid station that you're going to, and there were 5. So I started doing that, and I think that's probably where the second win kind of came in. But also, I mean, over time, again, this is just the first one, so there was a huge learning curve to this. I'm not used to.
Massive.
Yeah, not used to going this far of a distance. And like we said, this is a huge jump from a half marathon to 33 miles. So when I got to that final aid station, we're about, I would say, like 3 miles out from the finish. I sat down, I had a little ginger ale, something to eat, and I sat there for a few minutes. And again, I'm like contemplating, like, it's so easy to just like give this all up and be done. And I'm like, but we're 3 miles away. Like, because time was starting to like, it was getting closer to the cutoff. So I was getting nervous. I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it. Got up and you got to go through this cow pasture again and again. It's like a quick speed. I say quick in quotations, but these cow pastures are vast. They're long, they stretch. So again, like I'm walking through the cow pasture, just kind of like the other thing I'm trying to do with how scenic some of the course was just trying to like really like settle my mind and just kind of like take everything in and just actually enjoy the race a little bit, because as much as it's challenging and hard on your body, like there's a lot of like really cool things you can take in if you're really just trying to appreciate it. So, got through the cow pasture. Now we're going back into the trail system. And eh, this this part of the race, it's rocky, it's extremely muddy, like it's just stretching for a long time. And, I'm just working it, and I'm just really like getting super motivated, determined, and like just bound to like finish this strong. So we're getting closer and closer to the finish. And again, like these landmarks just keep like, okay, I know we're getting closer because I'm seeing this, we're getting to this part. And then like there's this one part where we like come around the corner and you see the gravel path. So you're coming back to the like where the campsite is, where everything's set up. And then I turn the corner, I see my mom like filming me, and I come around and like I see the finish, and I ended up finishing in 9 hours and like just absolutely collapsed in my chair, and my legs were just like vibrating out of control. Like, again, never have felt anything as painful as that was. But I was so relieved, so like proud of myself that I finished. I set out, like the goal was achieved. It was the biggest challenge, like I said, in front of me, and like I was able to conquer it. And it only like builds from there, really. Like,
Oh, that's right. God, and what a great feeling that is to, accomplish something like that, and to feel that pride in yourself, that
yeah,
well-deserved and earned pride for sticking through something where you wanted to quit so many times. That is like the perfect first ultra experience. Ultras always have so much suffering that you don't really get in, certainly in like a 5K or a 10K. They're painful because you're going fast, but the mental games you go through in an ultra marathon, and when your mind starts telling you, you can quit, like this hurts, oh my God, I've got so much further to go. And towards the end of these races, even if it's only like 3 miles left, like how many 3 miles is nothing, you think, but at the end of an ultra, 3 miles is like, oh my
yeah,
God, I might as well be running around the planet.
yeah. And I'll say this, Andy, these smaller races that I've done, I've always kind of been middle of the pack, or, like as far as like rankings go out of everybody or how I'm placing, like it's always been like, okay, I did pretty good. And
Mhm.
then like looking at this race after I was done was the first time I wasn't dead last, but I was really close to last. And it just made me like, it really stopped me in my tracks and like really humbled me really quick. Like, this has never really happened to me. It's something that like I'm not used to. It's different. And it really made me respect the community a lot more for really what it is, because it's not, you can't just come in and like just think that you're going to finish the race and do well. Like, there is so many factors to it. I mean, just let alone in the course itself, like if it was less muddy, yeah, maybe I might have been a little bit faster, but was it going to change much? I really don't think so, because based on it being my first one, there was a lot to learn from it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good point, and it's the same experience I had. I did pretty well in shorter distance road races throughout my life, but my first ultra was, I don't know what place I came in, but 90% of the field or more finished in front of me. I know that. I finished, which was great, but I was way at the back of the pack, and just like you, it gave me such an appreciation for what these ultra athletes do. How durable they are, how much endurance they have, and their mental toughness to just keep going. It's one of those things where I came in thinking I'm a good runner, and then you jump into this ultra world and you're like, this is a whole nother sport. Like,
Yeah.
I need to work a lot harder and stick at this a lot longer to get to even the middle of the pack.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
humbling.
I mean, think we're so good coming in because locally at a smaller race, when you're placing top 10 or even top 5, it's very easy to have that mindset of like, I'm invincible. I can do this and
Mhm.
I think I can do it well. I mean, I've kind of had that mindset for a long time, and this race really made me realize that I'm just not invincible, and there's
Yeah,
more to it
yeah,
than
it's
just
so
running.
valuable to be humbled. Like, I love experiences like that humble me. It's I don't know, it just knocks you down, gives you a sense of, like, you know, just reality, and makes you realize how much you have to work for things, and that's a really good thing to be reminded of every now and then, and to appreciate how much talent and ability other people have too, you know? It's good to get your ego checked like that, and ultras
Yeah.
are a great place to have that happen.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I think your first experience was a great one too because you went through all the mental battles and stuff, and you did it perfectly. Like, you took lots of rest. You said you stayed at the halfway aid station for like 15 minutes or so, took time to change your gear and stuff. Even with 3 miles to go, you stayed at that aid station for a good 5 minutes and, fueled up, rested, and recovered. Like, you did all the things you had to do to keep going, instead of just trying to like push like a maniac and maybe having to DNF, with half that last loop to go,
Yeah.
You took your time, you paced it out, and you did what you had to do to get across the line. So smart running.
Yeah.
And nice job, dude. We already talked about your nutrition and stuff. I use the Morton gels too in my race. I haven't tried what was it? The Go gel? Is that BPN you said?
VPN Go gels. Yep.
Yep. Yeah. Do you like those ones?
I do like I will say I really do like Morton, and actually what I like about it is what through my experimenting,
Hmm.
the like flavored gels, that was something I was really having a hard time with. Like, I was using Goose was like my first intro to gels, and I didn't really like they were hard to get down because they didn't like, to me they didn't really taste good. So I
Hmm.
was trying to find something that would go down easy, because that's important. You shouldn't be fighting what you're taking in, it should go down naturally. So I ended up trying, Bob had BPN because you know, that he gets a lot of his supplements from BPN. So he
Hmm.
ended up trying the BPN Go gels and ended up talking to me about them. And he's like, I think you should try them. So he gave one to me. I ended up trying it. And it's not as thick as like Morton is, because that's more
Hmm.
of like a kind of like a jello texture, is the way
Okay.
I
Yeah.
would describe it.
Yep.
This one is a little bit more liquidy. So it's really like easy to just kind of like get it down really fast. But it is a
That's nice.
sweeter tasting one.
That's nice because, yeah, my first gels were goo also, and they're really thick. And I don't want to do that work to get it down. But like you said too, the flavored gels, sometimes they're nice in the beginning. You're like, oh, strawberry banana or whatever, but you get sick of the sweetness and the flavor over the course of the
Yeah.
race. The great thing with the Mortons is there's no flavor to them. They're basically just like a sugary jelly, and they go down
Yeah.
super easy. And then it sounds like the Go gels, even though they are flavored a little bit, like the more liquidy consistency makes them go down easy. So you had the
Yeah.
right nutrition with you. That sounds like a good plan there.
Yeah, I think what I found worked really well for me was like I took a chance on the Mortons just because like I knew it was like a neutral kind of
Hmm.
gel. It was just sweet as opposed to like having flavoring in it. And that's what I was kind of experimenting with was, does my body react well to more of a neutral kind of just sweet gel, or
Hmm.
is it better with like a little bit of a sweeter flavoring kind of gel? So I found kind of just alternating, because palate fatigue is a real thing,
Hmm.
and when that hits, it's hard to get like any kind of gel in your body. And over time, I don't really have experience with this, but just talking with Bob about some of the races he's done. As far as a 50K goes, I think I would agree with him on this, but palate fatigue might come in, but I don't think it's going to be as much as if you're talking about like a 50 miler or 100 miler race, because you're consuming way more gels in a mileage like that than you are for a 50K. So what I found was just kind of alternating. So if I started with like my Morton gel, then I would go to the BPN or like the maple syrup one that I was using. Or sometimes I would start with the BPN one. I really just based it on what my body like kind of needed at the time. If it needed something sweet, I went with the sweeter option. If it just needed to maintain what it was doing, then I just went with the Morton.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you have to do in the ultras because you have a plan going in of how many calories you want to take throughout every aid station or whatever. But as the race goes on, you have no idea what your stomach and palate are going to do, and you might end up craving something in the latter half that you never would have expected. You might have been planning to take gels the whole way, and then all of a sudden, in that second loop, potato chips are the only thing that looks good to you. So you got to kind of adjust on the fly depending on your tastes and what your stomach is like telling you it wants. Yeah. Would you do anything differently next time with nutrition, or it sounds like you nailed the fueling and hydration? How many
I
how
would
many
say
grams of carbohydrates were you going for like per hour?
I would say 70 to 80 grams of
Awesome. Yeah.
carbs. Yeah,
Dead
that
on.
that was the goal. I will say this, I didn't bring this up and I'm just remembering it now. On that second loop, another like big challenge I was struggling with was in the beginning when I got going again. I don't know if I was digested fully,
Mm.
so I did have a little bit of cramping. And in the beginning, like getting calories in was extremely hard.
Ooh,
So
okay.
drinking gate, so not like the sloshing feeling, but it was just like kind of uncomfortable and was hard
Mhm.
to get the Gatorade down. It was even hard to just get water down and let alone gels. That was starting to get hard too. So, yeah, like to your point, kind of what, your body needs as time goes on, adjusting. So, what I was doing was I did rely more on the aid stations a little bit more as
Mhm.
far as like the real
More of
food.
the real
So
food, like you
like
said.
candy started looking a little bit more appetizing for the like quick calories. And so I started eating a little bit more candy at each aid station. I also started having some ginger ale because it kind of helped settle my stomach a little bit. And then I was able to start taking in more Gatorade. The gels, like I pretty much like kind of almost weaned off the gels a little bit. Like I wasn't taking as many on that second loop. So that could have been another thing that was kind of slowing me down a little bit was the fueling probably wasn't as good as the first loop.
Mhm.
But I mean, again, like I'm not used to pounding that many like gels into my system and also like just getting food while you're running. I mean it's different
It's
and
so
not a lot of
you don't
people
you
are
don't
used to
encounter
it.
aid stations that are like a giant buffet when you're doing a 5K.
Yeah,
It's a very different experience.
yeah,
But,
yeah,
yeah, you spoke about those aid stations and how amazed you were with what they had available. Say something about like, the volunteers, though, and the support out there. Because one thing for me is I had so much gratitude in mind for all of the people that are helping you along the way, whether they're standing at, like, a busy intersection and, like, clapping for you and telling you which way to go, or the people at the aid stations, they're so helpful and friendly.
yeah. So for me, like it's really important to thank the volunteers because they're taking a lot of their time. These
Mhm.
races aren't just a short duration kind of thing. I mean, they're there for hours on end, just especially the aid stations. I mean, they're not really moving. They're just
No.
cutting up more watermelon and restocking and replenishing everything. So for me, like I do appreciate them cheering us on and clapping and that does help a lot with what I'm doing. But every time I saw a volunteer, I made sure to thank them because they're taking a lot of it's important to them too. And a lot of race directors do say like make sure you thank the volunteers, but I don't
Mhm.
know how many people really take that to heart because they just think that they're coming out to run a race and like it's more about them than it is about the people that are putting it on. I mean, there's so much. I mean, I can't imagine, and I'm sure it's a lot, but how much they put into that race to prepare and get ready. I mean, there was a humongous truck at the finish line that had all the supplies there, like all the water that they were using, all the soda, the chips, like all of that stuff. Like it was very extensive. So I just think it's important just to take, like, even though I was running by him, hey, thank you. Like, thanks for what you're doing, because it's really appreciative. Because without them, if we didn't have aid stations, you're self-supporting yourself. And that's a little bit, that adds another like challenge to what you have to do
Oh,
on the
yeah.
course.
Yep. Oh, that is such a great perspective that you have. Yeah, I do the same thing. And I have noticed you were wondering like how many people do that, thank the support crew out there. In the ultras that I've run, I do see a lot of people saying thank you to every volunteer that they pass. It's not everybody, but in the ultra community, that is like etiquette, and it does seem like the majority of people know that and do that. So that's a really great thing, and I'm glad you did that in your first race. I will say, I hope that we do our ultra marathon in September in Brookfield, as I already mentioned, and our volunteers are absolutely incredible. Just like what you said, they work so hard. They're out there hours. Well, they're out there the day before the race, helping us flag the course and set things up, and they're there way earlier in the morning than the racers because you got to get everything set up before the race starts, and they're there after the race is finished because we got to take it all down, and then they're sitting at aid stations for hours on end, like you said. So I hope that I know that some of them are listening to this right now because they listen to the podcast, and they will definitely appreciate that you appreciate them. And I think your attitude reflects most ultra runners there. So good for you for that. And yeah, they will be happy to hear you say what you just said.
Awesome.
Most people know that staying hydrated is essential to nearly every bodily function. But 75% of Americans still do not consume enough fluid daily. As we age, bodily changes make staying hydrated even harder, especially without artificial additives or excess sugars. That's where Native Path comes in with extra help. Native Path's Hydrate is not just another drink mix. It's a thoughtfully designed formula packed with BCAAs and all 9 essential amino acids to help with muscle recovery and overall vitality. Plus, it's completely sugar-free and 100% natural. With their Native Hydrate product, you can fuel your body with essential electrolytes at the cellular level for overall vitality. Unlike other hydration drink mixes that are designed for marathon runners and contain upwards of 1,000 milligrams of sodium, Native Hydrate contains just 230 milligrams of sodium for optimal daily hydration. It's free of artificial flavors, sugars, and dyes. It's only 5 calories per serving, and every order comes with a 360-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it risk-free. Visit nativehydrate.com/co-movement to see what Native Hydrate could do for your health. Again, that is nativehydrate.com/co-movement.
I do want to talk to you quick about your training, because that's one thing we haven't touched on. We talked about the race, but
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, I didn't even know that you were running. I caught a few Instagram clips of you over the last couple months, and I'm like, is he wearing a hydration vest? What's David into these days?
Yeah.
When did you sign up for this race? And how long was the training build for it? Like how many days a week were you running? What kind of mileage? What did it look like?
Yeah. So another big curveball. So when I got home in May from school, it wasn't long. It was quick. I would say probably the beginning of June, I got on, can't remember what website, but maybe Ultra Sign Up or one of those websites, and started just like doing my search on like, okay, 50Ks, like, which one would be, you know, will I be around for what looks halfway decent
Wait, you signed up for this 4 weeks before the race?
Yeah. I probably had about like 7 weeks
Okay,
in the
all
grand
right.
scheme of things to get ready.
Wow.
So I started looking and kind of was looking for what would be doable. Talked to Bob about it. He was involved in, because I work with him usually every summer. I have different goals each summer, and kind of picked his brain about it. And he was like, "Yeah, I think you should do it." And Bob is really the one that has planted the seed, because he was always in my ear for a couple summers. He's like, "You should really consider looking into some of these ultras. I think you'd be like locally competitive, and I just think it's right up your alley." And I really just pushed it away. I was like, "No, like I think that distance is too far. I don't know how I'd be able to do that mentally, physically." But finally, I started, like, when I was on my own a lot in my own thoughts, just thinking about it more, I was like, "You know what? I think I
Yeah.
want to do it." And again, it was just another one of those things that's like this huge challenge that's in front of me, but how am I going to, like, accomplish it? So, like I said, probably about 7 weeks out, which isn't normal for the average person, I would
Mhm.
say. As far as like when you're talking about building a foundation of stamina, endurance, vert, things like that, that's going to be months probably to build a strong foundation. So you're, good to go for a distance like that.
Mhm.
So as far as training goes, I would say I was running probably almost every day. There was a mix of base runs, there was a speed session per week. A lot of it was just kind of working on that foundation, really. And then on the weekends, I would have those long runs. And in the beginning, like when I was getting back into the running again and really taking it seriously again, we started with probably about like 10 to 12 miles that first week, and then just slowly like built those increments. So we're getting close to the race, and we're probably about, I would say, like 4 weeks out from the race at this point. And all of a sudden I was working one day, and I had this like excruciating pain in my right tooth on the bottom right here. And I was like, "Oh no, it must be my wisdom teeth, or something's going on. Something's flaring up again." So, that happened on a Saturday, and like the next day, again, I was like down and out in a lot of pain. I called my dentist, and he put me on an antibiotic. Long story short, that the following Wednesday, I had to go in and have those surgically removed. I had 4 of them taken out. So
Wow.
I was out of commission for a week, and then I came back the next week and started running again. But as you know, like when you're out, it takes you probably another week or so to get back to where you were. And
Yep.
the week before I got my wisdom teeth out, I was starting to hit my like 15 to 16-mile marker on my long run. So I was almost about close to that like one loop
Yeah.
kind of, deal. So when I came back after the surgery, it took me some time to get back into it. And what I was starting to do was on those long runs, I started going up to Brookfield and doing all my runs up there, because I just thought, as far as like vert endurance, it's a good like training ground. I didn't
That's
really want to go. Yeah, I didn't really want to go to Lake Placid and work on the peaks, because it takes about 3 hours to get up there. As far as Brookfield, it's about 40 minutes from my house. So I took advantage of that. And even on some like the like 40-minute runs or 45-minute runs, when I was just working on like zone 1 or zone 2, I would still go up to Brookfield, because it was just like building that foundation of the endurance and stamina and things like that.
Mhm.
So continuing the training after the surgery, when I finally got back to where I was, I hit probably like 16 and a half miles. Like that was 2 weeks after the surgery. So that was a grind. It was a struggle. It was another challenge I was dealing with. And then I only had like one more week of like my long run, because the following week was going to be the deload week. And then we were gearing up for the race.
Yep.
So the rest of the training went good, and I only got up to probably like 18 to 19 miles on
Okay.
my long run leading up to this race. So I started getting pretty nervous actually. I'm like, I don't know, like, am I gonna be able to do this? Like, because when I would go and do those long runs, they weren't a cakewalk or a walk in the park. They were hard for me. So
Mhm.
it really, again, the mental game started playing with me, and did I make a mistake? Am I gonna, like, is everything gonna be okay? So again, just kind of went back to Bob, talked to him about it. He's like, I think you're gonna be fine because you're gonna have the adrenaline going.
Mhm.
You're mentally strong because he said, you're going to find out that's a big piece to ultra running is the mental piece. So you got that covered. Your goal is just finishing. So you're going to be okay. So reflecting after the race, I probably only had about 4 weeks of training for that
Oh
race
my God.
with
That's yeah.
with the surgery, because like I said, it put me out a week, and then coming back it took me like another week to kind of get myself back to where I was. So in the grand scheme of things, I would say yeah, about 4 weeks.
That is very minimal training for your
Yeah.
first ultra.
Yeah.
So your longest run ended up being about 18 miles, but you had probably planned to have a couple of them at that distance and maybe get up to a 20 mile or,
Yeah, that
a little
yeah,
further.
that was the goal. By the end of training, it was supposed to be about 22 miles
Yeah.
going into that race. And
I'm,
if I if I was able to do that, I think I would have been maybe a little bit more at ease going into the race.
oh, for sure. Yeah. On your long runs, were you doing a mix of running and walking or were you running the whole long run?
Pretty much running the whole run.
Okay. So that's good. So at least you know that like if you can, you're saying like you didn't get your long run very far. You were starting to wonder, am I going to be able to do this ultra? A good thing to remember going into ultras is that you get to walk a lot, you can walk all the uphills, you can stop at aid
Yeah.
stations and rest, and that recharges you for, the next push. So even if you're able to run, 18 miles without stopping like you did in your long run, now mix in a bunch of stops at aid stations and walking breaks and things like that, and you can get quite a bit further.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Bob knew what he was talking about. He knew you'd make it.
Yeah, Bob
Still a
knows.
challenge.
Yeah, still a challenge. We had a lot of conversations about it. I mean, from the beginning, like, I was just excited. I was like, this is going to be great. Like, I'm pumped up. This is awesome. And he was very confident in my ability already because through our discussion, he was saying, could you go and run a 50K right now? Absolutely. Are you going to do well? Probably not. Can you finish it? Yes. But
Yep.
he said, if you put a little bit of training in and work on the things you need to work on, the vert, the endurance, because those were probably, and I would say the stamina, those were probably the three things that he said, if you work on those, um, you're gonna do great. And even now, just looking ahead and uh, thinking about doing another one, those are definitely like the three things I'll focus on the most. Is just I'll have more time to build a stronger foundation, and working on the stamina, the vert, and the endurance. Those are really going to help me in the long run. I truly believe that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you is what you learned from training and what you think you would apply to your next training. So it sounds like you got that totally figured out because that's the same thing I go through every time I do a training block and do a race. Then you reflect and you're like, oh, here's what went wrong in the race or where I struggled. If I had done this in training, I would have been better off. And then you just apply that to your next training for your next race, and each one gets better and better. But
Yeah,
man, you have a lot of potential because if you did what you did on basically 4 weeks of training, you're going to be so much better off getting like, 3 to 4 months of training in before your next race. It's going to be a world of difference there. Real quick,
absolutely.
you said you also did speed sessions. What were those like? You did
Uh,
like one of those each week?
Yeah, I had one a week, and a lot of them were I would go to the track and I would have like my quick warm up, probably like a 10-minute at an 8:30 pace. And then it was 4 30-second sprints at a sub 5-minute pace, I
Yep.
think, 4:30 pace. was
Yep.
what I
So
had to keep on it.
4 strides, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you'd have a quick cool down and then another 10-minute 8:30 pace run.
Nice. Yeah. And those strides are so overlooked by a lot of people, but they develop so much more power in your legs. It's strength that's going to really help you in the later stages of a race when things are starting to fall apart to have that power and strength built up in those big muscles.
Yeah, that's a good point, Andy, that you brought up because through some people that I've watched and a little bit of research I've done, and just talking to Bob and other people that are knowledgeable in this field, you're right. Speed work is definitely overlooked. And in ultra running, like, I think some people think that they don't need it, but
Hmm.
like you said, like, speed work it's huge.
That's the best form of strength training for runners. I mean, doing squats and lunges and things and step ups in the gym is really useful too. But the best form of strength training for a runner is that speed work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important for the ultra running, but you know, although I am like starting to move into doing more ultras, the other thing that I've tried to keep on the forefront too is maintaining my speed. So
Yes.
there were a couple summers ago where Bob and I just we did a running program for me. And
You were training to run a fast 5K at the time, I think, right? I
yes,
remember that. Okay.
yeah. So I had like about 2 months and my goal was like, I want to say it was sub 18
Which is
was my goal.
blazing fast. I mean, that's like 5 something per mile.
Yeah. So, and I had about 2 months to try and get as close to that as I could. And we did an extensive amount of speed work. And right from the get go, Bob always said that he knew I was fast. But the results I was seeing like week after week would I think we were doing 2 speed sessions a week. And it was just really exciting to see how fast I was progressing.
Mhm.
And that doesn't always happen. So I really took that and ran with it and was able to get down to, I want to say, 18:58 was my fastest
Oh, that's great.
5K I
It's
did in 2 months. Yeah, so that was huge, and that's something I'm working on now is just on top of the long runs that I'm doing and training that way, I'm also maintaining the speed work. Because I want to maintain, a faster mile,
Mhm.
um, and things like that. And actually, I just went out for a speed session not too long ago, and I clocked in at a 5:23 mile pace, and that's been my fastest up to date right now.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
such smart training. I do the same thing every Monday. Yesterday for me was my speed session and my goals are my upcoming races involve marathons and ultra marathons, but having that high ceiling of a fast, like let's say 1 mile time trial, if you can run like these ultra marathons, we're running at like 11, 12 minutes a mile, 13 minutes a mile, whatever. But if you can run a mile, let's say your mile PR is 8 minutes, that 12-minute mile is going to feel easy, but maybe not super easy. But if your 1 mile PR is 6 minutes or 5:30, now that 12-minute mile feels so much easier. Having a high top end just makes all the paces below that feel so much easier. And yeah, like you said, it's neglected by a lot of really long distance runners, but keeping that in your weekly training is so smart.
Yeah, I think it's and another thing is just for me, especially in people that are competitive and just like to, you know, push the limits. It just keeps like setting that bar higher and higher. Like the 50K was like a huge bar that I set, but I've accomplished it. So like I keep looking for things to barriers to break down. So now like Bob and I were just having a conversation recently about a client he has. He's a cross country athlete, super fast, and his mile PR is, I believe, a 4:57 or 4:58. And I was talking to Bob about this recent speed session I had, and like, yeah, I clocked in a 5:23 mile pace. That was the fastest one I had out of the whole session. And he's like, you're starting to get to a point where like you're shaving off like almost 30 seconds and you're going to be closer to that like sub 5. And he said, that's very doable for you, actually.
Hmm.
And again, like just me being me, like, "Wow, I couldn't do that. Like, I can never do that. You're
You
talking about
can.
you're flying, you're flying, that's fast." So he's like, no, like couple like speed sessions and you just keep doing what you're doing. He's like, it's gonna happen. Like, it's
You
bound to
keep chipping
happen.
away seconds. Yeah.
Yeah. So and recently, last Saturday, I ran a 5K and I did it sub 20
Hmm.
and I felt really good and I just felt fast
And that
on
was
that
only
run.
just a couple weeks after your ultra.
Yeah.
That's great. Good recovery.
Yeah. But like I said, I've like right now what I'm doing is I have started doing 2 speed sessions a week again. So I'm trying to like again just maintain like the quick bursts of energy that I have. I wanna there are like still goals that I have on the short end. So as
Hmm.
far as like when you're talking about 5Ks, because I just enjoy running, so I'm not going to stop, doing a 5K or half marathon. Like, I'm just going to continue to do things like that because I don't foresee myself, at least right now, doing a 50K like consecutively,
Hmm.
like, every month or so. There's definitely going to be like some big breaks in between because, like I was saying, it's a big mental toll on yourself, your body. And I think, having those mental breaks where, yeah, I can go and do a 5K, I can do it fast or at whatever pace I want to do it at and still feel good. It just keeps me going, I guess,
Hmm.
really. And it gives me that like cushion away from like the 50Ks so that I don't get burned out from it. And, I want to keep coming back to it.
Dude, I'm exactly the same as you. The some of the big goals I have are, I guess, the marathon distance and ultras. But I always keep the smaller races on the calendar. Like I'm always shooting for a new 5K PR or 10K PR. Like I've got all my records for all the different distances at the short races. And yeah, I love short races. I love running 10Ks and half marathons and 5Ks, if you can call a half marathon short, compared to an ultra.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, I'm always trying to tick those off, but it keeps you really fresh, like you said. You just did a training block for an ultra, and you did that. It feels good to say, hey, for the next 2 months, let's focus on a 5K PR, and then after that, we can go into some half marathon training or whatever. Like
Yeah.
to mix things up throughout the year is really valuable, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I
Yeah.
go back, I have to go back to South Carolina here soon. That's when I'm gonna start getting back into the like longer distance stuff. And
Well, yeah, so
you know,
let's get into that. The last thing I had for you was just like what your future plans are. Like you've done this first ultra. What does the next year look like for you? What kind of races do you want to do, or what do you foresee in the future?
yeah, so like I said, I'm looking at a race in November. There's a couple in November, but they are a little bit more self-supported.
Mm,
Not as many aid stations as there was on this 50K that I just got off doing. And the other thing is, this 50K was a little bit more unique because, a typical 50K is like 31 to 32 miles, not usually like 33
hmm.
mile mark. And they're only a couple hours away from where I am. They're about 3 hours of travel time. And they seem a little bit flatter as far as, when you're looking at the vert and things like that. You can tell it might be a little flatter than the one I just did.
Hmm.
And you should know all ultras, like they're all different.
They're so different.
There's never like the same ultra. So those are some things I was looking at was, the vert and things like that. I think the one I was looking at is November 8th. And then there's one in January I was looking at, which is it is a little cooler in South Carolina. in January. So forget the name of the race, but it's something along the lines of like the Frozen 50K or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, it looked unique. It looked like a cool race. As far as like within the year, what I'm looking at is I want to have a 50 miler.
Nice.
I'm not sure where it's going to be. Actually, the one that I'm really considering is the Cayuga one, the
Oh,
one
yeah.
that
That
you
goes around the
did it.
Finger Lake?
Yep.
I think that one's all on road too.
Okay.
It might be all on a paved surface. That's a unique ultra marathon because it circles Lake Cayuga, right, which is like a 25-mile long Finger Lake, and you just go all the way down it and then all the way back up the other side. And I believe it's on roads. I looked into
Okay.
that one a long time ago too, because being a road runner, I was like, oh, that'd be good for me. Like, I
Yeah.
don't have to
Right.
cross any streams. I get to stay dry.
Well, maybe I'm not thinking of the right one, but it's the one that.
I might be thinking of the wrong one too. It's been a while since I
Yeah.
looked at that race.
I know Bob's done it, and there is a stream crossing in it.
If Bob did that one, then it's definitely not all on roads.
Okay.
So we're probably thinking of different races then. Okay.
Okay. I thought it was one that you did with him. I thought it was
Oh,
your first
so
one you did.
the one that I did with Bob was in Ithaca. That's the Cayuga Trails 50
Yes.
miler.
That's the
Dude, I've done that 3 times now. I love, love, love that race. It's
Yep,
so
that's the
beautiful.
one I was talking about. Yep. That's the one
Awesome.
I've been
Okay,
looking
cool.
at.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know what I'm thinking of. It must be. I don't know what the Finger Lake is. Canandaigua? I don't know. I don't know my Finger Lakes.
Yeah, that's okay.
But anyway, yeah, dude, that race in Ithaca is phenomenal, and I mean, you'll love it just as much. It's so beautiful. You run through all the gorges and through past waterfalls and stuff. It's a spectacular run. And I mean, if you do that next year, I'll see you there. We'll be there
Awesome.
together probably.
Yeah. I mean, we're a little outlandish as far as like goals go, but like Bob and I have also talked about I think this is a little outlandish right now, but we have talked about the Leadville 100 a couple of times through conversation, and yeah, that race seems like a that right now it's not even close to my wheelhouse, and
Mhm.
Bob, just knowing who I am and, the way I'm wired, he's like, oh, yeah, you could do it. We'll do it together. I'm like, Bob, that's 100 miles. I don't even have a 50 miler under my belt, and you're talking
100
about,
miles and a lot of vert.
yeah, it's insane. So he's like, well, maybe one day. I was like, well, let me get a 50 miler under my belt
Yeah.
and, we'll see what happens. But, you're doubling that distance.
Dude, we're so similar. That's on my bucket list too. And right now, I've got some 50 milers under my belt, and I still can't imagine. Like, I mean, that last 50 miler I did a couple months ago, if I got to the finish line, if you told me now you have to go do it all again for 100 miles, like, I can't imagine that right now. But I know that it's something you can build to, I can build to. Bob's done it. So yeah, maybe someday we'll all be at Leadville together. That's a
Maybe.
bucket list race for me also.
Yeah.
Cool, dude. Okay, so let's see. I think we got everything. I do want to say though, I've noticed you've been super active on Instagram lately. You've got like really great inspirational content that you keep putting out. Do you want to tell
Mhm.
people? Do you want followers on that? Is that something that you want to share with people?
Yeah, I'm trying to, build a little community and, I'm working on some things, but it's really just like the reasoning behind that is kind of just seeing what the generation is now and
Mhm.
the way, people are wired or, their mindset. It's more of at least what I've seen is I can't get to the level that you're at, or I can't do this or that. And it's just more about like, I just want people to understand that it's just starting. Like, you just have to start, whether that's
Mhm.
find what you enjoy doing. And I talked about this a little bit the last time I was on the podcast, but people need to find things that they enjoy doing, whether that's yoga, running,
Mhm.
walking, because all those things are great things to do. It keeps you active, it keeps you, in a good headspace, things like that. And am just trying to show through actions and as well as, preach more about you don't have to be here at this level. You can be down here and work your way up to here. People just need to kind of start and, set little goals. The goal, a lot of people see this, they want to be here, that instant gratification, but they're not going to get here unless they start here and start with those little goals, those little habits, and just keep building off of that until eventually they're here.
Dude, yep, that is a great message. That's a beautiful way to end the podcast. So I hope people find you. What is the Instagram handle?
So it's USA Gleeson.
Yep.
That's Gleeson, and I'm sure you guys will put it somewhere.
We will.
So they can find it.
That's awesome. Yeah. I hope that resonates with people, because you're right. A lot of people do have a defeatist attitude. They sort of feel like they can't, they see things that others do and think, oh, I can't get there. But you're right. You just stack little blocks, find something you enjoy and just pursue that. And it just kind of snowballs from there if you stay consistent and, keep working at it. If you really enjoy the thing, then you will keep doing it and just keep building. And it doesn't really matter where you get to. All that matters is that you're doing something and trying to improve yourself day after day. If you do that, it's amazing where you get to over time. All right. Well, David, dude, I really appreciate you being on the podcast, man. Thanks for sharing all that.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, no problem. And everybody out there, we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting our sponsors, Native Path Supplements and Lombardi Chiropractic. Your support helps us to bring you 2 new episodes each month. See the show notes for more details and a nice discount from our sponsors. Thank you, and see you next time on the Co-Movement Gym Podcast.